This is a talk I haven't done before, and it's about weight loss, something that is close to home for just about everybody here, because we all have bodies and we all either want to gain weight or lose weight or sit right in the middle. The show Survivor relates to weight loss and a lot of people's perception of weight loss. And so if you simply wanted to just lose weight, an easy way to do it would be to go on an island where there's not a lot of food, work out really hard, and then come back home, you'd probably lose a couple pounds. But is that considered to be healthy weight loss? And so whether it be from not eating enough, exercising too hard, you could smoke cigarettes to lose weight if you wanted to, because it'll decrease your appetite. You could drink a lot of caffeine, that'll decrease your appetite as well. But that's not how to healthily lose weight. And I know quite a bit about this from my background in martial arts and wrestling, and one of the things that we have to do is we need to make weight. And the same thing with cross country and running. You want to be at a ideal weight in order to perform your best. And so I know how to lose weight unhealthily, and over the past 10 years I've been learning how to lose weight in a healthy way. With the 8 years of college I've done, I'm going to try to compact this into 30 minutes. Please feel free to stop me and ask questions. Please feel free to ask me more questions just in the office as well. But hopefully everybody will get something out of this. Rather than thinking about a goal as weight loss period, I'd like for us to think about losing healthy fat, if that makes sense. And there's a difference between losing fat and losing muscle, and it's a very important difference when you step on the scale. Most importantly, I apologize, my slide got a little cut off there, is we needed to define the reason why we want to lose weight in the first place. This is the most important one. And so anytime you set a goal, whether it be weight gain, weight loss, it's very important that we understand why we're setting that goal and what we're doing it for. If we think about just my experience, weight loss was really easy. I had a match, I had a boxing fight, or I had a Muay Thai, and I had a date, and I had to be a certain weight before it. And the ways that I went about that wasn't always healthy. When it comes to most people, we either have one of these three goals in mind. We want to change how we look, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. We want to perform better, whether it be doing something we love, like hiking, walking, even just going to the grocery store. And lastly, to prolong our life in a healthy way. And so once we determine our reason behind why we want to lose weight, we also need to set a goal as an end date. And we want to make sure that it's not a goal that's outrageous. We want to make sure that it's measurable, obtainable, and also a smart goal. And the reason I say smart is because weight loss is something that we have to be careful about. And so my recommendation to all people, if I was talking to my mom right now, I would say, I would like for you to get blood work done first. And the reason why I'd recommend getting blood work done is we need to find out if there's any nutritional deficiencies present. You can actually be extremely overweight but also malnourished at the same time. What I mean by that is that if we decide we want to lose weight but we're very low in iron, we'll be really fatigued each day. Our thyroid, in fact, is in control of a lot of our hunger hormones and our metabolism. And so if our thyroid isn't operating the correct way, if we're low in iodine, we're not going to be able to achieve those goals safely. And then because of that, there's a lot of different ways that you can go up about getting blood work. A lot of people think you have to go to a doctor or a nutritionist in order to request a blood panel. If you all are familiar with LabCorp or Quest, you can actually just go online, request a metabolic panel that will take a look at all of the important nutritional factors that you need. You can also take a look at a hormonal panel to see, based on your age, what does your testosterone look like? What does your estrogen look like? From there, taking a look at your white and red blood cells would be important as well. And all these play a lot of different key factors that I'll go over shortly moving on. And then also, we need to take in consideration how we want to lose weight. So we need to consider what kind of lingering injuries, what kind of comorbid medical conditions that we're dealing with. Number one on the list would be to begin improving those habits as quickly as possible once we set that goal. I bring up the biggest obstacle in our way when it comes to weight loss, and that's going to be food. Has changed a lot in just my lifetime, and I'm sure everyone else's lifetime here. And one of the hot terms that people hear on the news all the time is processed food. They think that processed food is bad for you. The term processed food is misconstrued. Humans have been processing food for thousands of years. Anytime that you cook on a fire, you're changing the chemical makeup of that food. If you're turning wheat into flour, you're changing the chemical makeup of that food. And so we've done that for quite a long time with no major issues. In the early 1800s, during the Napoleonic Wars, we discovered how to can food. From there, we developed the railroad system so we could get food from one place to another very quickly. And it wasn't until the 1950s that we saw the rise of convenience in food. And so that means that we want food fast, we want to be able to eat it quickly, and we also want to be able to store it easily. And that is where we started getting frozen dinners from. Now in the 1970s, that's when we started chemically engineering food. And when we started chemically engineering food, we started altering it in ways that the body couldn't understand. And when that happens, we have all sorts of comorbid medical conditions that arise from it that make losing weight very, very difficult. And so when someone says to you, don't eat any more processed food, what should that mean? Typically, what that means is that if it comes in a box and you put it in the microwave and it can last a really, 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 really long time, it's probably processed with a lot of preservatives and artificial ingredients. And so my top advice when it comes to food is just sticking to real food. If it's something that God put on the earth, it's probably real food. If you can understand and read what's on the back of that label, it's probably real food as well. Sticking to things like vegetables that we can cook in the oven or on the stove, things that you can get at the grocery store on a daily basis. When it comes to this fast food, they actually engineer it so that it tastes better and so that you get hungrier faster. And the way that that occurs is there's not a lot of fiber and protein in a lot of these processed foods. So fiber is going to slow down the digestion of the food, and so is protein on its impact of ghrelin, which is a hormone in the body. And I'll get into that shortly as well. What we need to do is make sure we're getting this real food. There's a lot of great places to do it. Your average grocery store is one of them, and just starting in the produce aisle and then moving on to our meats that are not cooked yet. We'll talk a little bit more about how this ultra-processed food affects our body. Our diets that are connected to these ultra-processed foods are linked to a lot of not only physical conditions, but also mental health conditions. And so it actually interacts with our gut-brain axis, which is your brain understanding what you put in your gut, and your gut telling your brain, use this for this, use this for that. This is very important when it comes to our appetite control. So protein, the more protein that we have, the longer it's going to take to digest. The more fiber that we have, the longer it's going to take to digest, and the fuller that you'll feel over time. When it comes to health conditions, most people feel pretty good after they eat a healthy meal. And you don't feel that real big heaviness, like if you just had a Big Mac or something like that, because there's not so much dense artificial ingredients that are in it that are just sitting in your gut when your body doesn't know, oh, this should go here, this should go there. And so when it comes to purchasing this food, the best thing to do would be to find an app. I recommend Yuka. So you can actually use it on foods and cosmetics, everything from vegetables and produce to meats, and you can find out where is it coming from, for one, what kind of pesticides may be on it, what kind of artificial ingredients may be in it as well. And so when it comes to the actual ingredient list, we want to make sure that it's not super long with a bunch of 30-letter words in it. Those are all chemical compounds that are being input into it. I took a great course on this called Food Politics in undergrad, and we had a gentleman from the Purdue factory down in Bridgewater, Virginia. And so he came and spoke to our class about how he was turning turkey into crab, is how he opened up his presentation. And he talked about how they're synthetically able to make turkey taste like crab, and that's where we get a lot of artificial crab from. We're doing a lot to bioengineer food to make it cheaper to produce. For Purdue, kill less turkeys and make more meals. And then number 3 is make it so that you're still hungry afterwards, so that you buy more food afterwards. From food, we need to understand how food impacts our body. And so we all operate at a basic metabolic rate. So it's known as a BMR. And so the best way to calculate this is to take our body weight in pounds. I'm 180 pounds. If I multiply that by 12, I'll be around 2,100-ish on a calorie basis. And so this basic metabolic rate, what it means is how many calories your body's gonna burn naturally without doing anything at all. For example, for me, I'm gonna operate based off of just math alone, not other factors, around 2,100 calories. And so for each one of us, if we take our weight and we multiply it, you can find out about how many calories you need to have a day, the way we are now. So, that's a great question. And so, on average, if you look at the American Dietary Association, weight loss usually occurs between 300 to 500 calorie deficits. Meaning, take that number, subtract 300 to 500 from it, And that's about how many calories you need to eat in order to start losing weight and seeing weight loss. I would highly recommend avoiding aggressive restriction. So for me, if I had a fight in 7 days, I would stop eating 5 days out. I would just have a gallon of water a day, half of it, half of it, half of it, half of it. I'd be able to lose 17 pounds in about 7 days, right before a fight. And I felt terrible, really, really terrible. Just enough to fight, but not good afterwards. And when I started eating afterwards, nothing tastes the same either. It was just, it's not a good experience. And it's very, very unhealthy. A lot of people die from it. In addition to the basic metabolic rate, one of the ways that I use it is I have a smartwatch. And so my smartwatch can calculate roughly, based off of my heart rate, how many calories I'm burning. And so that's a really good objective way to take a look at things. However, a lot of things like treadmills, if you put your hands on it, it'll take your heart rate, and that will help you have at least some sort of a gauge as to how many calories we're burning a day. There's other equations, like if you wanted to take a look at how many steps a day or how many miles do I have to walk to burn X amount of calories. There's all sorts of ways of doing it, but I didn't want to get too complex. And so jumping back to the food that we need to put into our body, our protein intake is what controls a lot of our hunger. And so while our calories determine how much weight or how much we weigh, protein is going to be what's protecting all of our vital muscles, tissues, and organs. And so the more protein we take in the body, the higher our ghrelin is going to be, and that's going to decrease how hungry we are. When we take a look at how protein can improve your body, it's going to reduce the level of the hunger hormone ghrelin, increasing our satiety. So how do we judge about how much protein we should take a day? I would recommend using an app like MyFitnessPal. Really easy. It's on most cell phones and also computers. They have free versions across all different platforms. But what you'll do is you'll start tracking what food you're eating. And so it's as simple as scanning a barcode or taking a picture. And technology's gotten good enough now that the phone itself can tell you, oh, that's roughly 20 grams of protein, it's roughly this many calories. My plate is really good for deciding what our meals should look like and how we should balance them out. Roughly, for the average person, we want to have about half of the plate being some kind of vegetable, quarter of it being protein, and a quarter of it being smart carbs. And I know a lot of people do carb restrictions or no carb diets. Some people do carnivore diets where they basically only have protein. All of these diets serve different purposes based off of each individual. So if your blood work says that you need to do X, Y, and Z, then some of these diets may come into play. However, on average, carbs are very, very, very important to not only our brain function, but our energy throughout the day. And our brain is running on carbs, and it runs on cholesterol. Cholesterol is what makes up every cell, tissue, and organ at a very, very micro level. So cholesterol is very important, which is why breastfeeding children is very important as well. And then lastly, well, I guess I can say a little bit about smart carbs. So smart carbs are going to be things like whole grains, nuts, legumes. They're going to be things like potatoes. Now you can say that you don't want to have a lot of carbs. It can be as simple as just cutting out things like pizza, those ultra processed carbs. Simple smart carbs are always going to be good for you. And then lastly, a healthy fat. So healthy fat is responsible for, again, slowing down the digestion, which means you're going to stay full for a longer period of time. Moving on to exercise, and when it comes to how much exercise we should do, I would reference back to that basal metabolic rate. And so if your goal is to lose 10 pounds, let's say over the course of 3 months, something simple like this would be walking 20 to 30 minutes a day, aiming for a goal of 8 to 12,000 steps, which is recommended by the World Health Organization. And then also, when it comes to this daily movement, it doesn't need to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the gym. It doesn't need to be like a bodybuilder. So just walking around the office today, I've got over 7,000 steps just from adjusting people. If I continue to walk after this, which I will for another 20 to 30 minutes, I should be around that 12,000 step goal. How quickly should we be walking to be in a fat burning phase? It should be a moderate conversational pace, meaning that we shouldn't really be able to sing a tune and sound too good, but we shouldn't be extremely out of breath either. So consistency is way more important than intensity over time. One good thing to look up would be steady state cardio and the positive impacts that it has on the heart over time as well. I always recommend 20 to 30 minutes of walking at least 5 days per week on top of our routine walking that we do throughout the day. When it comes to the strength training portion of weight loss, this is very important, especially for women that are premenopausal and postmenopausal, perimenopausal. Our vitamin D levels, again referencing the blood work, if they're low, it's going to significantly impact our bone structure and our ability to maintain muscle. If our vitamin D is low, we're going to put ourselves at risk of things like osteoporosis, osteopenia, which can lead to stress fractures. And for women over the age of 70 years old, a fractured hip is very difficult to recover from. And over 80 years old, women that fracture their hip unfortunately pass away within 3 to 5 years afterwards. And it's because of the lack of mobility that occurs. When it comes to strength training, very, very simple things. When it comes to body weight, just doing things like squats daily, lunges daily, push-ups if you can, even picking up a can of beans and going back and forth. These are all things that a personal trainer can easily go over with you, but also with the internet and things like ChatGPT, you can just type in what is an easy strength training goal. This is what I'd like to do. You can even talk to it about if you'd like to lose weight and combine that with a recommendation from your medical doctor or your chiropractor, et cetera, et cetera. You can usually develop a pretty good program. I recommend things like resistance bands. They're easy to do at home. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of money, and so I looked up on YouTube actually, like workouts in prison. How do guys get really muscular in prison? And it was just things like using a towel. So I'd have my buddy like hold a towel and I'd be doing tricep extensions with a towel, be doing a lot of push-ups, a lot of things of that nature. And with resistance bands, it makes it really easy at home to do things like squats, lunges. You can even do a form of bench press with it. A lot easier on the joints and a lot safer on the joints than using dumbbells, where we could have an accident, drop it, break something. This muscle plays a really big goal in, or role rather, in our health, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Our metabolism is modulated by how much muscle we have, and so first thing that we're going to start to break down when we work out is going to be our fat stores, but once we start running out of those fat stores, that's when we start breaking down muscle. And so if you ever see, and I would recommend everybody look tonight, a before and after of someone who starts on the show Survivor and at the end of the show Survivor. They don't just look lean, but they look emaciated, meaning that the visceral fat has sunken in on their cheeks. You can see ribs through the back, which is a big sign. That means that they've not only blown through their fat stores, but they've also blown through their muscle stores. And once that starts to happen, your body has nothing else to rely on like those sugars, the cholesterol, and the fats. Maintaining muscle is going to be difficult if you're someone that would like to look at the scale every day. Muscle does weigh more than fat. It is a lot more dense and compact. So while you are putting on this healthy muscle, it's going to look like you're not losing as much fat, but it's very, very important that we maintain that muscle, not only for your organ health, but to protect the visceral aspects. And so muscle, as we get into our older stages of life, is also going to be what can help you just by getting up off the ground, which is very important. Being able to be strong enough to push someone out of the way if a car is coming. The time comes down to it, it's important to be as mobile and independent as we can be. When it comes to sleep and recovery, one of the simple tips that I like to use is put the phone down or turn the TV off 30 minutes before bedtime. For those of you that have heard of blue light, it actually interferes with what's known as our delta wave of sleep, meaning that you won't fall into the deep REM sleep. That's going to result in you not waking up feeling energized. Poor sleep also increases our hunger. The way that it does that is it interacts with our anterior pituitary and then our pituitary and then our thyroid by increasing our stress hormones like epinephrine, cortisol. That's one of the big reasons why we do the heart rate variability test here, is we want to see how well your body is adapting to stress, how well it manages the stress. And so if you're resting in a fight or flight stage, if you're very, very sympathetic, you're far left on that chart, your body isn't recovering appropriately. Your body isn't digesting the food in the right way. A lot of people that are oversympathetic, overly stressed, may not have an appetite, may have too much of an appetite, but they don't process the food appropriately. And when it comes to sleep, this is what's going to impact our hormones when it regards to our muscle strength and also our progress. Going up to the next slide is kind of risky to talk about, I would say, nowadays, and that's about how do medications play a role in weight loss. And this is something that Dr. Amir and I actually talked about on the podcast, is GLP-1s and things like Ozempic, weight loss medications. What does it look like now, and what are doctors, physicians, and researchers going to say in 10 years? And the New York Times actually on Saturday published an article regarding what happens when you stop these medications. The biggest thing is that all of these medications do come with a side effect, whether it be nausea, vomiting, headaches. And the reason why is that it's not going into your bloodstream and just burning the fat immediately. It's impacting the hormones that are associated with our hunger and our appetite. And so suppressing that appetite can be good for our blood sugar short term, but what research has showed is that blood sugar and that weight loss spikes back to 100% in 40% of the people within 1 year after taking the medications. If your doctor recommends it because you have diabetes, because we have to lower our cholesterol, because we have to do et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's good. But as a tool simply for weight loss, it can have some unfortunate side effects. And so what are those side effects? The biggest one that people see is that they not only lose their fat storage, but they also lose muscle. And once they start to lose muscle, we start to see bone deposition decreasing, meaning that those bones become more weak and brittle over time. There's a big risk of actually rebound weight gain, meaning that we gain more weight once we get off the medication than we had before the medication. And again, going back to the common side effects, one of the big ones that we're starting to see is stomach ulcers in a lot of people in the lower intestinal tract, and that's a result of the stress that it puts on the body in the malabsorption that is occurring. The final summary here, and I try to compact a lot of years of stuff into a very fast presentation, would be whatever goal you have, whether it be weight loss or weight gain, knowing why you want to do it is the most important. And it's most important for your physician as well, so they can track and help you track and set measurable, objective, and smart goals. Eating real food is always going to be the best. So things that come in boxes or Ziplocked or doesn't look like it came out of the earth, walked on the earth at some point, probably not good for you. And then protecting our protein is very important. As I stated, it's going to be what propels us to eat less during this time because you're going to feel fuller. It's going to play a key role in your muscle development. And then moving and recovering is just hinting at exercise and how exercise can play a role in this process. But you absolutely can lose weight in the kitchen, and abs, as bodybuilders say, are made in the kitchen as well. And then consistency over time. So many people I know start their New Year's resolution saying, I'm going to lose 20, 30, 50 pounds of weight in 2026. And after a week or two, they went so hard in the gym. Now they're really, really sore. And now they have to wait a couple days, 3 days, and they just lost all their momentum and never go back to the gym. So starting off slowly and realistically is very important. Lastly, I know this personally, is that you don't need to be perfect. You don't have to get all your blood work done. You don't have to track every micronutrient, see every single calorie. That would be awesome if you did, but you don't have to in order to lose weight. It's as simple as eating less calories than you burn each day. That's how simple it can be. And then just need to be consistent each day, creating those small habits like taking the stairs, for example, versus the elevator is a very, very easy small habit to get you a couple more steps in. Protein supplements, great question. When it comes to protein supplements, back in the early 2000s, a lot of these companies, Muscle Milk, Muscle Farm, they got in trouble for the additives that are in the protein powders. It could have been anything from sawdust to feathers to whatever it is, because it's not regulated. There's a lot of third-party labs that will test the supplement. If it says that it's approved by the FDA, that's awesome, but most supplements are not. And so I tend to like any kind of protein powder that is derived from whey. Milk or dairy-based is usually good because it's going to be slow digesting. The ingredients on the back of it, as long as I can read it and doesn't say proprietary blend, is usually okay. But somebody like Standard Process, who we utilize, they lab test everything, and you can actually print off the lab reports with it, so you know exactly what the nutrients are that's going into it. And if you take a protein powder that's a lot of additives like amino acids in it, you're going to be expelling a lot of that rather than actually maintaining it. So I actually struggle with dairy, and so I take plant-based protein, which is chickpeas. It's soy, chickpeas, one other thing, but it's just as good. There's a lot of really good vegan alternatives. Costco actually has a brand. It's called Orgain. It comes in a box. It's about 20 grams of protein in it. An easy way to tell if it's a good protein would be 1 gram of protein is typically 4 calories. So if you multiply that number and you can see how many calories are in the protein shake, whatever that extra or bonus is not protein. So if my number comes out to 120 and there's 150 calories in there, I know 30 of it is derived from something else, usually sugar or a carbohydrate. Yeah, so there's a chart, and I wish I should have printed it off for everybody, what's known as multipliers on it. And so this calculation, if you were to do it on math alone, it's not going to work for every single person. And so, for example, if you're over 65, sometimes they'll do a times 1.2 multiplier. If you already know that you exercise, let's say 30 minutes a day pretty vigorously, there's a different multiplication for it. From a average basis, the mathematical equation typically works, but it really depends on person to person. Same thing with like BMI, body mass index. It's been used for a very, very, very long time. Body mass index doesn't take into consideration the amount of muscle someone has. So what it's taking a look at is your weight and your height and your gender, but someone can be a 5'5" male and be a big bodybuilder and like only have 7% body fat, but he'll be considered obese because his height and his weight don't match up. Doing the math on things is a good first step, but it's definitely going to change from person to person. So typically they'll recommend what's known as a statin drug, so anything that ends in statin, for example like vasostatin. A lot of times that's used to try to lower someone's cholesterol. And so depending on what combination of medications that they put you on, what I would do is take a look at what are the side effects of that medication. The general surgeon should have a label that's going to have all those off-putting effects. Blood pressure medication and statin drugs typically don't have too many major impacts on weight retention themselves, but definitely play a role in the body's overall function. If you are taking a statin drug, it's always recommended to take what's known as CoQ10 with it. If I was going to break down how the energy cycle works in our body, CoQ10 is one of the key factors in what's known as the creatinine cycle. And so when we take a statin drug, it lowers that CoQ10, which is why a lot of people develop fatigue when they start statin drugs, but also muscle cramping when they start statin drugs. So it will impact your energy level, which may lead to you not wanting to exercise, which as a result may lead to weight gain. If they're following all this and they're still not losing weight. So this goes back to being on an island. And so no matter what, if we don't have food, the body's not going to be able to sustain itself over time. If we had blood work done and we had all of our deficiencies and we knew those deficiencies, and we're still not losing weight, that would be a problem. So I would like to see if we have completely normal blood work and we're still not losing weight, the only thing I could think of would be to do a hormonal panel and see, is the thyroid being impacted, is estrogen being impacted? And it's just, you have to dive deeper and deeper and deeper. A good way to think about it is that while we're all humans, we're all different models of like a car. But there's no, like my Toyota Corolla that I'm running in isn't the same Toyota Corolla that you have. And so I can't, you can't just take it to any mechanic and say, find out exactly what's wrong with this model, because that model wasn't made the same way. So with women, when they're postmenopausal, typically what we'll start to see is a decrease in testosterone. Testosterone is very important for women as well as men. It's going to be what helps us to build muscle, have energy. Without diving too deep into the science of hormones, we'll have more fatigue generally. We'll have less bone density, less muscle mass in general. And that typically leads to it being more difficult to lose that weight. And it's going to be more difficult to burn deeper into that fat storage. Modifications can be made, of course, but taking a look at your hormones is really important as well. And the same thing happens for men, actually. So men kind of have their own menopause, which occurs generally after about 37 years old. After about 37 years old, give or take a couple years, depending male to male, we'll start to lower our testosterone. We'll start to see a lot of different changes as far as it's easier to build a belly at that age. We're having more fat deposition, less testosterone, less energy drive, less sex drive, changes in libido, mood changes, all sorts of things. For men, having healthy testosterone is important for prostate health as well. When I was in school, our lab professor, his name was Dr. Herr, and he said that if men could live forever, they'd eventually die of prostate cancer. And so making sure, and that's because our testosterone continually tanks as we continue to age, which is what's going to be supporting that prostate. Which is why getting a PSA test done, if you're a male over 40 years old, is really important to check that prostate-specific antigen. Absolutely. So one of the things that we do with osteoporosis is we're evaluating it on X-ray first. And so bone deposition itself, let me try to break down what osteoporosis is first. So if we take a look at the model here, osteo meaning bone, porosis meaning porous. And so the bone itself becomes more porous. We'll actually see a lightening of the bone on the X-ray. It means that the bone is more fragile per se, but that doesn't change the articulations it has with the nerves. With the techniques that Dr. Mir, Dr. Michael, and I utilize, they're what's known as low force, or HVLA, high velocity, low amplitude. And because we take the x-rays first, we can identify any risk areas on x-ray, which may not be safe to adjust, which is why we do the x-rays. If there was a severe case of osteoporosis, that's when we'd recommend you for what's known as a DEXA scan. And they would take a look at your bone deposition itself. And that's when we typically recommend things like vitamin D and other supplements to help boost that back up.